Hello and welcome back to the channel. You join us on a proper adventure day because we're going to be riding to the very highest point that we possibly can on Teide, which is 2,400 meters up, 2.5 kilometers near enough, up to the highest road on Teide. The highest point on Teide is I think 3,700 meters, and we're going to get a kilometer or so below that, but the highest point we possibly can. It's about 32 degrees now, but at the highest point we can get to, it may drop to about 15 degrees. It's so high, and I cannot wait. And have a look at the road. I'll get the helmet out the way. This is the road we'll be taking all the way to the top, around about an hour and a quarter. And we will be going through some dramatic scenery. I love this. That is just riding or driving heaven. And if there are any clouds there, we will be riding above the cloud line to actually get as high as we can. So let's hit the road, but this will be one of the most spectacular rides in Teide, or in Tenerife. I've got no doubt at all. So we're now way above, probably a kilometer, 1,000 meters above sea level now. And the vegetation's already changed, because when we started, just thick cacti everywhere. And now the cacti have kind of given way to the pine trees that you see in the distance there, and it's becoming a bit more arid. But it feels still over a kilometer high, like we're being blown in the face by a very warm hairdryer. It is so hot up here. We've still got at least, I would say, a kilometer elevation to get up, but you see the scenery just changing all the time, and the roads are some of the finest that I've ever seen. It is riding or driving heaven here. It's impossible to be better. Welcome to Vilaflor, the highest village or town, the highest settlement in Tenerife at 1,400 meters altitude, and incredibly, it still feels like there's a hairdryer blowing in our faces. It's so warm. Listen to this. This is where Vilaflor got its name. So legend has it that Vilaflor owes its name to a Spanish captain, Pedro de Bracamonte. Upon seeing a beautiful Guanche girl, who were the original settlers here, so upon seeing a beautiful Guanche girl in town, he exclaimed, Vilaflor de Chasna, which translates to, I have seen the flower of Chasna, which was the town's former name. It all links in. from the Masca video where the Guanches were settlers, and even here they were settled in Vilaflor as well. It's so interesting. We've still got a kilometre to get up. I did think the temperature would have subsided a bit. You've got some really nice lush, I think they grow, Monika thinks there may be tomatoes there that they're growing. You've got the pine trees, got quite a few cacti back again now, but we've just seen a nice little spot there in Vilaflor. We'll include it in the description if we go in, and we'll get a drink because it's quite hard going in this heat actually, isn't it?
The biking gear.
Yeah, with all the biking gear as well. We've seen a few bikers now. I know this is a bit like a playground for adults because the roads are so incredible. So I expect to see more and more bikes the higher we get. Well, we're over 2 kilometers high now, 2,000 meters high, and it just changes all the time. Now it's super dramatic, and we can see the top of the tree line is probably no more than about 200 meters above us. But the foliage and the nature, it just changes with probably every half a kilometer that you go up. And now, as we go around this bend, it almost looks like something from Mars, just red rocks and absolutely no vegetation once we get past this bend here. But I know I've said it before, this must be one of the finest driving or riding roads in the world. It is just incredible. It is, if you do top to bottom and back the other way, it's probably about 2 hours of complete uninterrupted riding or driving heaven with the nicest, best quality roads you can imagine. It is, and it's relatively empty. We probably only passed about 20 or 30 cars going up for the entire 1.25 hours. It is stunning. And over there, and you can see the silhouette, that there is La Gomera. I can just see the outline. I don't know if Monika will be able to pick it up. It gets more and more spectacular. And I can just see in the distance, no vegetation at all. That looks like Mars. So let's carry on. And one of the best views of Teide there, you can see the shadows of the clouds on this side of the volcano, and at the very top, completely clear and just highlighted by the blue sky. I think that's the very tip, maybe a bit of snow, but someone may tell me otherwise. There's a little white cap there, that may be the top of the cable car on the right-hand side, or it may be a tiny bit of snow. But look at this. Monika tells me, don't start saying stuff unless you know it's true, but this looks like, this is sand. I mean, this is sand right quite close to the top of Teide. It looks like here, this entire area here is a dried up riverbed. If you look on this side here, maybe I'm not allowed over here, but you can see what you'd imagine to be the edge of, I guess not a riverbed, but the edges of a lake. And then you've got these massive stone structures just jutting up. And then it's actually quite lush. All along the edges, there's a bit more greenery than I remember actually, but you can imagine this being the edge of the lake all the way along here. And it's all sand here. This whole flat plain here is all, obviously it's not been imported here. It's all just sand. I really think there may have been some lakes here. I'll try and do some research to see if I'm talking nonsense. And just on the edge, you can see the darker red. You can see the edge of the lava flow right in the distance. And then you've got these weird green little elements of the mountainside here. We're about to go around to the final bit of Teide. What? Wow, are you getting that, Monika? It's like a mini sand whirlpool. Okay, I can't get my words out. That was weird. You can see it's still going on over there. We are in the middle of a gigantic lava field here. So, El Teide behind us, and that would have spewed up. I think the last eruption from Teide was 1909, but this lava field here, molten rock field, is from 1798. So all of this, I mean, this is all just lava. It's amazing. It's all incredibly light, and it's just a sea of this. I think you call it molten rock. I think that's what dried up lava is. Molten rock, just all dried up as far as the eye can see. And then you can see the edge of it. You can see exactly where it got to, because there's an absolute line where the lava or the molten rock stops. And then you've actually got quite lush greenery with what looks like a bit of grass and trees. It's so interesting. Massive juxtaposition there between the two. I mean, even knows what you think would be heavy. It's so light. And this would all have happened 223 years ago from this specific area of black lava. This would all have happened over 200 years ago. It's just incredible what it does to the landscape. Nothing at all is growing where you've got the heaviest lava flow, and then just the lushness there on this side of the mountainside. In fact, Monika just pointed this out, and I think she's absolutely right. Just in front of me here, this must have been one of the vents that opened up during the last explosion, because you can see the actual vent itself, and then you can see all of the black molten rock surrounding it from where it would have exploded out, and you can see the exact stream down to this massive sea of black lava. That's so interesting, and that could be 200 years old and it's still so evident. You see the devastation that it causes. I mean, if that's 200 years ago, and look at what it does. It leaves, would you call it a scar? I mean, it's a natural phenomenon, but it really does completely change the landscape and makes it pretty tough to do anything on, actually. And the fact that it's so clear so many years later is, yeah, it's incredible.
Love is love. Love is love.
We are here above the cloud line, so this side of Teide, you can actually see the cloud line there, and although it's not completely clear, it's the best view we've had all day of La Gomera. And this is such an interesting spot because Christopher Columbus in 1492 sailed from La Gomera over to Gran Canaria. And on his way sailing from Gran Canaria in 1492, he actually witnessed El Teide erupting. So 1492, 500 or so years ago, he would have been sailing straight the way through this pass between La Gomera here and Tenerife off to Gran Canaria. And what's even more interesting, it was just 4 years before the Spanish conquest. So as such, when he actually saw the volcanic eruption, I don't think Tenerife had an actual, it wasn't claimed by anyone. So it's just 4 years before the Spanish came over. It's such an interesting time in history. That's it, almost home now, about 20 minutes from home. Stopped off for a little coffee and a cake. It actually, in the end, it took us about 6 hours, but Tenerife is just riding heaven. It's literally like a racetrack, and everywhere we were today is where they do a huge amount of the press launches. For example, I know the Triumph Trident, and I think even the Triumph Rocket. They did the big press releases right there, literally on the roads we were riding, and you see why, because it's just stunning, uninterrupted roads. Thanks so much for coming along with us today. Please do give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.